Hey, are you a business owner, entrepreneur, or professional? If so, we want you to apply to be a featured guest on our show. My name is Adam Torres, and I host the Mission Matters series of podcasts. I've recorded over 3,000 episodes, and we are just getting started. How do you know if you'd be a good guest to be on the show? Well, only one way to find out, and that's to apply, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We want guests that have a story to tell, guests with a brand, a product, or a service that can benefit my audience of listeners. If this sounds like you, go to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. I'd love to talk to you and get to know more about your story. Again, head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, now let's get into the show.
Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres to keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always like to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so I have Jason Cosby on the line, and he's Executive Director over at Awake Communities. Jason, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Adam, so much for you guys, Mission Matters, and all that, having us on. Thank you.
Oh, man, so what a topic today. So cultivating community through coffee, care, and creativity. I mean, first off, I love the alliteration, the C's there, but I also love the mission and what you're about. And we at Mission Matters, we're mission-based, and our mission here is really to amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. So that's our mission. Jason, what mission matters to you?
We want to see communities, small towns and communities thriving with healthy kingdom culture and healthy cultures. And healthy culture has to do with making sure that all the areas of culture are thriving. So our whole focus is just to see, the religious sector thriving, the business sector thriving, government sectors thriving, families thriving, and we believe that the cultures that the Lord has given us help to cultivate community in that way.
Man, that's awesome. Love bringing mission-based businesses and entrepreneurs on the show. So maybe just to get us started, tell us a little bit more about Awake Communities.
Awake Communities basically started in my living room during some time of, actually it started in my kitchen. So we used to have a Tuesday night prayer and worship time, and then after it was over with, people would gather around a very large table that my father-in-law built for me, and we would drink coffee and just talk through the different things that were going on. And we started to see that some of the cultures that the Lord was building within that community of people would be effective if we had a coffee shop and were able to have these conversations on a regular basis. And so that's where it all started. It started with literally a tent in a parking space in Conyers, wow, Georgia, at what they call the Taste of Conyers, where we literally gave away coffee and just talked to people all day. So it was just a ton of fun just to enjoy. We have a motto here. It's drink coffee and love people. And so that hashtag was initiated by us almost 8 years ago. So, and now it's kind of gone across the world.
Wow, what an amazing, amazing story. And so I have to ask you, so I feel like a lot of people have ideas. Like there's some people that'll be listening to this that have an idea. They're in their kitchen table right now as we speak, listening to this, and they're trying to get their ideas or their things out there or off the ground. I mean, what helped you maybe take your idea from just the living room, so to speak, to the tent, then the tent to the how does that look like, that path for you?
Not recreating the wheel. And so we utilize people. We've awesome. Partnered with people for years. We've worked with nonprofits. We've worked with the for-profit sector. I'm a marketing major in my business history, and so I knew the power of networking. And so I just networked. Everything that Awake has been built on has been built in and around chambers of commerce or network meetings or groups of people where we would just go in and share story and listen. let people just listen to people's stories and just hear it, and really digest it and have conversations and ask questions. And that's where Awake came from. That was what it was all about. It's just about lifting people's heads for a moment from that chewing of the cud of work and busyness and going, wait a second, where am I right now? Where's the flock? Where are my people? Where's my community? Okay, now I know where everybody is. I can go back,
That's awesome. And so how do you really cultivate community through it? Coffee, care, and creativity. Like how are you pulling off that feat?
All right. So cultivating community has to do with a lot of what my wife and I went to the Lord a few years ago, and we just began to ask him, Lord, what are the cultures that would be healthy in community to help them thrive? And so we got a set of 12 cultures from the Lord. They're super simple. I'll give you the first couple of three. It's devotion is the number one, of course. The second one is honor, and the third one is family. Just those three in the beginning of our 12 cultures have been so influential in our community because it takes people out of the self-defense mechanisms and the I have to promote myself mechanisms that that tends to be really prominent in unhealthy cultures. And so by treating people with honor, listening, and then having the Lord as our base of everything, or, just having that devotion with him, my identity is based in him. So I can do anything. As the scripture says, if my identity is based in him, I can do anything and I don't have to promote myself to do it. So when we would come into meetings and networking with communities, we would begin just listening. And then we started to learn some other things that were necessary. So we sort of started a coffee house that was a center of community. And we didn't realize that that's what it was until you open the doors of the coffee shop and everybody comes in. Literally, heads of the county and commissioners and city council members and all these people just start coming into your coffee shop. You start hearing stories, but then you also start to get to influence by way of being in community with these people. And so when you cultivate community, it's not, you don't make changes right away. It's 3, 5, 7 years before, and they see how you steward things, and then they come back to you and say, hey, we have this problem now. Do you have any suggestions for this? And so you begin to just build those relationships. And so you cultivate by turning the ground slowly and by working with your community to make it a better place to live for everybody. Coffee is the venue by which we do it. Care is what we call our community initiatives projects, where we are helping homeless families or displaced families and singles, or working with other nonprofits to help them build and grow and find financial stability as well. And then creativity has to do with just we are all creative. You're either an entrepreneur and you're creative, or you are a musician and you're creative, or you're a writer and you're creative, but we are creatives at heart. It's who we were made to be to begin with. And so we feel like those three areas, if they can be cultivated in the community, they create such a healthy community to be surrounded by.
Man, that's awesome. And so why do you think this approach is needed?
Well, unfortunately, we in the Western kind of church, evangelical, postmodern church model have become too accustomed to the us four and no more in the buildings with four walls. And so there is less cultivating of real kingdom culture in our communities unless you are in a combative nature on social media or arguing with someone. And so we felt like what the Lord was teaching us is like there is a way for you to become a center of community, to be healthy and yet be, the ecclesia, the whole body. We work with Methodists and Pentecostals and holiness churches and unity churches. We've worked with all of these different groups of people. And the only way that we've been able to do this, one, not be a parachurch organization, but also not being exclusive in our operations of day to day. And so I'm going to have the same God conversations with, the lawyer that comes in that I'm going to have with the pastor that comes in, or the 16-year-old that comes in, or we have an internship where we take anywhere from 2 to 8 people twice a year through our cultures and teach them how to implement them. And so we're taking all types of young people as well, from teenagers into their 20s, mostly those gap year kids that are young people that are between high school and college, or college and career, and we're teaching them as well how to cultivate community wherever they go. It's a limited time that they're here with us. We pour into them and then send them where they go. So we feel like this approach is needed because there's so much division in the culture today. What is a way that you can sit down at a table, share a cup of coffee, and have unity to have a conversation? Or at least have a common honor for one another, so that you can have a healthy conversation about issues. And so we hope that that's the culture that we are churning and turning, and it will bear fruit. We've already seen it bear fruit right here in our city, and so right here in our communities.
Man, that's awesome, and it's so inspiring to see somebody out there really building in the communities. And one of the interesting things is what you're saying. It sounds so like innovative. I'd almost say there's innovation there, but if I really, really think about it hard as you're explaining things, this is kind of systematizing what how small town America was once upon a time. You had a proprietor, whether it could have been a coffee shop, could have been local hardware, could have been whatever. Yeah. These were the pillars of the community on Main Street that were had a vested interest, not just economic, but in their kids were going to be raised in that community, right? And their kids' kids maybe, like back in the day. So that's the way that they went about their lives. It wasn't just what am I going to do today on social media for a post to get X amount of likes or do this or that. And not to pick on social media. I mean, we've probably done 30,000 posts in the last 5 years, so we do social media. but the difference is, like, we're our approach even in doing social media or in producing content like this conversation we're having today is that we're thinking about how this ages for the next 10, 15 years, not how can we get some clicks today. And I sense that based off of the care that you put when you say it takes 7 years or something like that in the community, having these conversations for a real community should be built. I mean, that's a real thing, and it's a real process, and I feel like it's something that it can leave a lasting legacy, but it also makes a difference is the main thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100. We live in a generation now where we have moved away from that time that you're talking about, that early time in our generation where people were still on their front porch waving at people when they went by. And that's the kind of mentality that we want to have now, and we want to bring that healthy community back. It's like you see someone when you're driving down the road and you actually wave at them, because you know who they are and you've met them and you had a coffee with them, or you talked with them on the street, or you run with them on Thursdays, or, those types of things.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, this has been quite a pleasure having you on the show today, Jason. And if somebody's listening to this and they want to learn more or they want to connect and follow your journey, I mean, what's the best way that people can learn about Awaken Communities, all your projects, and just follow the brand overall?
Yeah, you can follow the brand overall. All of our projects are on awakecommunities.org. And so if you went to awakecommunities.org, you can at least get a window into all of our different project communities, our community projects, and then you can go and find our coffee shop there, find our roaster there, or find our care initiative or our studio for recording artists and stuff of that nature. So you can find all of that right there on the awakecommunities.org.
Fantastic. Well, Jason, again, thank you for coming on the show. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. Hope you learned a lot. If you did, don't forget, hit that subscribe button. Definitely want you to be a return visitor and a return listener. And Jason, thanks again for coming on the show. It has been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much, Adam. It's been great talking to you guys.